The story of the Lincoln cent, dated 2000, begins with the foundations laid nearly a full century earlier, when President Theodore Roosevelt pushed for a redesign of United States coinage that would bring artistry, symbolism, and national pride into everyday currency. This movement eventually produced the Lincoln cent, first released in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Over the decades, the coin went through subtle changes, evolving from the wheat ear reversed to the memorial reverse in 1959 and becoming one of the most familiar pieces of money in American pockets. By the time the year 2000 arrived, the Lincoln cent had already carried a long legacy of cultural significance, representing history, patriotism, and everyday commerce. The year 2000 issue continued that tradition and emerged during a transitional period marked by technological advancement changes in minting standards and renewed public interest in the smallest denomination of U.S. currency. The Lincoln cent of 2000 was produced at two primary facilities, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Both were responsible for striking hundreds of millions of coins that would circulate widely throughout the United States. These coins were created under the same copper-plated zinc composition introduced in 1982, when rising copper prices forced the U.S. Mint to move away from the earlier bronze alloy. The 2000 cent therefore carries a thin layer of copper over a zinc core, a design choice intended to preserve the familiar color of the penny while drastically reducing production costs. As collectors and researchers reflect on the year 2000 coin, it is essential to understand how this modern composition played a huge role in shaping the appearance, durability, and error potential of the coin. The obverse featured the enduring portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that has lasted longer than any other portrait on circulating U.S. coins. Even after more than 90 years, Brenner's image remained essentially unchanged in 2000, aside from slight refinements made by the Mint over time to enhance strike clarity and reduce dye wear. Surrounding Lincoln is the familiar inscriptions including the national motto and the year 2000, which mark this coin's place in the modern series. Collectors often examine the obverse for clarity of strike sharpness of Lincoln's hair and beard details and the overall luster, which can vary depending on minting conditions. The reverse of the 2000 Lincoln cent still displayed the Lincoln Memorial, a design created by Frank Gasparo and introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This design remained in place until 2008, making the 2000 cent part of the extended memorial reverse era. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial in remarkable detail, including the tiny yet visible statue of Lincoln seated inside. For many collectors, the memorial reverse offers opportunities to study the precision of the minting process, especially in the steps, columns, and inscriptions. Although millions of these coins were produced, slight differences in die wear, polishing, and alignment give each piece its own characteristics. The year 2000 was notable for the fact that minting technology had become highly advanced, enabling faster production and greater efficiency, but at the same time, these technological processes introduced the possibility of new types of minting errors. Some of the most searched for errors on the 2000 cent include die cracks, die chips misaligned, dies off center strikes, and plating blisters, which are more common due to the zinc core beneath the copper plating. Zinc-based cents are especially prone to bubbling or blistering when the copper layer separates slightly from the core during the minting process or after exposure to environmental conditions. These errors do not always occur frequently, but they are highly interesting to collectors who specialize in varieties and anomalies. Another fascinating chapter in the story of the 2000 cent is the dramatic shift in public and collector interest during the early 2000s. The value of the Lincoln series had been growing steadily following the release of the 1995 doubled die cent, which brought new attention to modern pennies. As collectors examined coins more closely, the year 2000 coins were scrutinized. for doubled dies and other varieties. While no major Class 1 significant doubled die has been officially recognized for the 2000 cent, numerous minor varieties exist and continue to generate interest in the numismatic community. Searching through rolls of 2000 pennies became a popular activity for many new collectors, inspired by the growing trend of coin roll hunting. The year 2000 also marked the beginning of increased globalization, electronic transactions, and discussions about the future of low-denomination coins. Many countries around the world were phasing out their smallest denominations or altering their coinage strategies, but the United States continued to produce billions of pennies every year. The 2000 cent represents a snapshot of this era, a moment when traditional currency was still widely used, but financial technology was advancing quickly. This context adds to the historical value of the 2000 penny, which sits at the intersection of old and new monetary systems. From a collector standpoint, the 2000 cent offers different levels of value depending on condition. Business strike coins from Philadelphia and Denver are common in circulation, but finding a flawless example in high mint state grades requires patience because the zinc composition makes these coins vulnerable to scratches, discoloration, and wear. Coins graded MS-67 or higher are scarce and often command strong prices among registry collectors who aim to build the finest possible sets. Proof versions of the 2000 cent were struck at the San Francisco Mint, and these proof coins feature mirror-like fields and frosted devices, giving them a striking appearance highly valued by collectors. The Lincoln cent of 2000 also holds cultural significance because it represents the final decade before the major redesigns of the 2009 Bicentennial Series and the 2010 Union Shield Reverse. The 2000 cent, therefore, is part of the last generation of memorial reverse cents, tying together nearly 50 years of American coinage history. When collectors look back at the memorial design, they often view it as a symbol of stability and tradition, and the 2000 cent serves as a reminder of that long chapter. Throughout its circulation life, the 2000 cent traveled across countless hands, stores, schools, banks, and homes, silently carrying with it the legacy of Abraham Lincoln U.S. minting history and the everyday economy of a changing world. Even today, 25 years later, these coins continue to appear in change jars, old drawers, and coin rolls, offering collectors an opportunity to pause and connect with the early years of the 21st century. Every circulation mark, every small plating bubble, every subtle variation in the finish tells a story of where the coin has been and how it survived the years.